Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting edition of HR Learning Mentoring Series. Today, we'll be looking at a very important topic, the role of learning in employee and business performance. And our facilitator is set. Mr. Lyle Olayinka will be facilitating the session for us tonight. And let me just share a brief about him, just to get us better acquainted with him, especially for those of us who may not have known him prior to tonight. He is an associate of the Nigerian Institute of Training and Development, and he has over 10 years quality work experience. At the moment, he is the program director, Light and Nature Global Resources. Prior to now, he was the training manager at Origin Tech Group Limited. He was also the program coordinator for Bola-Ige Mechatronics Institute. It is with so much pleasure, delight, and elation that I would like us to receive to the virtual lecture, Mr. Lyle Olayinka. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to appreciate Mr. Oluyemi Adeosun for all you are doing. It's really a privilege to be on this call at this time, and thank you for giving such opportunity to share my thoughts with colleagues and senior in the industry. I want to welcome everyone to this session discussing the role of learning in employee and business performance. I'm quite sure that when we talk about learning, of course, we all grew by learning. Like the psychologist says, a newborn baby is born tabula rasa, nothing in mind. And so the experience and everything comes up to make the newborn to be who, whoever he is, maybe at 50, maybe at 70, or maybe even at 20. Every one of us have grown through learning. But this evening, we'll be talking about learning, the role of learning when it comes to employee and business performance. Running through what we talk about, we look at the terms learning. What do we mean by learning? What's our understanding of employee performance? About business performance, important terms. But we look at that briefly. Then we look at knowing that, okay, we are talking about organization now. So where does learning comes from? And then how does learning affect performance, both for employee? Will be closing with some key responsibilities, each and every one of us. Please, let's just enjoy a moment and as fun as the role of learning in employee and business performance. Having run through outline what we'll be discussing today, the role of learning in employee and business performance. First, I would like us to share our thoughts using the chat. What does the word learning mean to you? Just drop a note on what learning means to you. Then when will you say an employee has performed? If you are saying, oh, the role of learning and business performance, that means we need to measure when an employee has performed. And one way to do that is to understand, okay, what are the bases for which we will be able to say this employee has performed. Please drop your thoughts on the chat. Also, when we use say business has performed, or it is one thing for an employee to perform, it's another thing for the business. So we need to be able to differentiate this. So I would like to say our thoughts using the chat. What does the word learning mean to you? When we say an employee has performed, and when we say a business has performed? Please, let's just drop some notes. I would like to hear some of our thoughts about that. Okay, thank you. Stoliyemi said learning is process of acquiring knowledge, skills, or understanding through study, experience, or teaching. Thank you, thank you. Please, I want more thoughts, more thoughts. What does the word learning mean to you? When we say an employee has performed, when we say business has performed, what does business, just 2 or 3 more minutes to get started. Please share your thoughts. What does learning mean to you? Business performance, what does it mean? What does an employee performance mean? No one else is dropping. Common professionals, drop your thoughts. Let's hear from you. Let's hear from you. Want to? Oh, thank you. An employee can be said to have performed. Okay, let's look at Ifeanyiwa Okeke says learning to me means acquiring knowledge and skills. So simple. Learning means acquiring knowledge and skills. That's a very good one. And Mr. Oluyemi said an employee can be said to have performed when they have successfully completed their assigned tasks and responsibilities in a satisfactory manner, meeting or exceeding the expectation and the organization. That's a very fantastic one. I wouldn't expect less. Then Abubakar Hamzat, we can say an employee has performed when he or she contributes to organizational goals and objectives. So the contribution of an employee to the goals and objectives of the organization is what will make us to say this employee has performed. Or you get a thumb up from the management, that means they've seen your contribution, they've seen what you have done to the goals and objectives of the organization. Okay. Also, business performance. Okay. A business can be said to perform when it has achieved its predetermined objectives and goals, resulting in sustained profitability, growth, and overall success. That is very perfect. Predetermination is key. For either for employee performance or for business performance, one thing is certain is there must be a predetermined objectives. Learning mean from what I have here. Learning is what does learning mean from what I have? Learning is a relatively lasting change in behavior that is the result of experience. Please, let's take note of that. It's a lasting change in behavior. Although that is relative, it's a lasting change. There must be a change in behavior. This is how I used to do these things. By the time I passed through an experience, now there has been an improvement, there has been a change in the way it's used to happen. So it's change in behavior. It is a systematic and planned function of enhancing knowledge, employees' knowledge and skills. Yes, and that is where it comes in when it comes to organizational learning now. It has to be systematic, it has to be planned. Remember from our contribution, we said that there are predetermined objectives, there are goals that have been set for us to measure the performance of that. And so those goals also guides the learning. It has to be planned out. How do you want to enhance the skill? How do you want to enhance the competency level generally? Competency will include our attributes, it will include our attitude and all of that. The primary required to perform their jobs efficiently. That is key. For instance, if you say learning generally, people are learning back in school, people are learning for all sorts of reasons. But our focus now is in an organization, as we are people professionals in an organization. All that the learning is about is to make sure that every employee is empowered enough, every employee is equipped with the know-how and the expertise needed for them to perform their job efficiently. And then we often hear, learning and developments. Let's look at that according to AIHR. When we use L&D, that is learning and development, it's about a systematic process to enhance the employee's skills, knowledge, and competency, resulting in better performance in a work setting. That's according to AIHR. And so we can see that learning is tailored to the predetermined objectives. What are the goals we want to achieve through this learning? So it's just like that. When we are talking about learning organization, it has to be measured based on some things. Let's look at the word employee performance first. Performance, like we said, employee performance is defined as how an employee fulfills their job duties and execute their required tasks. Take note of the word required. There are tasks that are required for every employee, even from the gatekeeper to the managing director, whatever the role is. There are things that are required. Goals have been set out that the reason why we are bringing this person on board is to achieve these set objectives. Now, for them to achieve the objectives, they will have to do this today, tomorrow, do that, next tomorrow, do that. And those tasks, how are the employee fulfilling those duties? How are they able to execute those tasks? That is the key of measuring a performance. It is about the effectiveness, take note of that, the quality and efficiency of the output. It is not just about, oh, are they fulfilling it? You have to close the gate, you have shut the gate. Fine, no. Was it done effectively? What is the quality? Maybe it's the sound of the gate, maybe it's the sound of the gate, maybe it's the speed at which you responded to shutting the gate. Maybe that is talking about efficiency, that's talking about effectiveness, talking about the quality. All of those things must be involved before we can say an employee has performed. It is not just mere fulfilling the duties. It's about doing it effectively, with the best quality, and then efficiently, making sure that the resources employed are well utilized, both time, monetary, or whatever. Performance contributes to an assessment of how valuable an employee is to the organization. Simply put, if you want to say, okay, do you have a value to this organization? We can only measure that based on your performance. Oh, this person is worth 100,000 naira to the organization. It is based on the performance. It is not mere how much did we incur when bringing him on board. It is not just about that. It's about how well he's doing on the job. It's about how effectively he's performing his job. It's about the quality of the results being produced by the employee. It's about the efficiency. Oh, is this person wasting resources, or is he managing the resources well? Does he have the best method to achieve whatever he needs to achieve? So that is the whole thing that brings together the value that an employee have to the organization. And I want us to look at this quote by Peter Drucker. The only real difference between one organization and another is the performance of its people. So we say, oh, this organization is among the top 100 globally. We say, oh, this other organization is struggling. The difference between them is based on the performance of its people. If the people perform so well, then the organization will do well. Now, if the people are not performing well, then we already have the results of the organization. And we must always take note of that. So employee performance is key. Employee performance is important if we want the organization to be valuable, if the organization will be positioned where it ought to be. And so we've looked at learning, we've looked at employee performance. What about the third statement there, the third term, which is about business performance? Because it is one thing for an employee to perform, then how do we know if a business has performed? Let's look at what we have again. When we talk about business performance, it is considered to be the company's ability to profit from its resources and achieve its objectives. Let's take note of that again. The objectives. You don't just get somewhere without setting the destination. A business is not just set up, oh, I just feel like setting up this business for what purpose? That would be the question. What do you want to achieve with the business? What is the aim of carving out this department? And so there are set objectives now, and there are resources that will be utilized in achieving those objectives. Now, how is the company generating profits from those resources? That is a measure of the business performance. It is not just about, oh, we've achieved the objectives. Key part of the objective is the profitability. And that's why whenever we talk about business performance, the word KPI always comes in, key performance indicators. How are we going to know that these are the things we've achieved? What are the metrics by which we'll be able to say, oh, this team is doing well, this department is doing well, should we shut down this business, or should we add more capital to running the business? It is about the achievements measured using a number of metrics. And the metrics can include several. It can be about the profitability. Now, how profitable is this business? How profitable is this venture? Are we just having activity? You know, there are organizations whereby people just work, they are busy from morning to evening, and really don't see the profits coming. And then also, we are not forgetful that there could be stages in business development that will be that profits will not be that maximum. But then we understand that one of the key KPI is profitability. Every business wants to profit. Every business wants to profit. And so we can say this business is performing based on its profitability. You can also talk about productivity. I recall I conducted a survey with an organization, and we discovered that our strengths, it was just testing the strengths of all members of the organization. So after conducting that survey, now what came out as the common strengths, the strong strength for every member of the organization is hard work. Hard work. And seeing hard work as so we can say, okay, an average employee of this organization is hardworking. However, considering the organization in itself, we see that productivity is so low. And the question now is, if people are this hardworking, if people are doing so much, if at the end of the day, everyone is stressed out from whatever they are doing, how come we are still not getting what we supposed to get? If we don't measure the productivity, there's no way for us to be able to find out, to research more. What can we do to improve this? So productivity can also be about sales. What sales are the profits coming from it? By the time we subtract the expenses from the revenue, what do we have left? It can be about employment growth. Employment growth is the organization improving in size. It can be about customer satisfaction. Okay, how satisfied our customer? Everyone is looking at that, and many of us will not subscribe to some if we have not read the review of customers that have had experience with them. So business performance could be based on customer satisfaction rating. It could be based on order delivery time. Every one of us will sometimes complain, just buy from that merchant. If you order today, it might take a week or two before you get what you ordered for. And then there are others, if you just place your order, you can get it under 1 hour. Now, that is business performance. It could be based on that, the metric could be about that. Business performance could also be based on, particular projects. For example, if we have a marketing department and we are saying, okay, let us launch this campaign. This campaign is targeted at single women. What are they able to achieve and all of that? And after running the campaign, we want to know the number of leads generated. That is a performance being measured too. Talking about business performance, it will be about adherence to project budget. For every project, there is a set budget. Now, how well are we able to adhere to it? Whether it's individual, whether it's the organization as a whole. So it could be about the adherence, it could be about the completion timeline, it could be about improving market share. Some businesses are doing quite well, but let us look at the market share. What is the proportion of the market that we have? Businesses are concerned about that. Businesses are concerned about that. I recall recently I joined the annual general meeting of a top-tier bank in Nigeria, and one of the shareholders was talking about that, addressing the chairman and the board, and that see, we know that you are giving us good dividends, but then let there be clear leadership. We want to be able to say our bank is the leader, and the only way it can do that is not just that, okay, these other banks is declaring 3 naira 50 kobo, and you are also declaring 3 naira 70 kobo. Now, let there be a clear leadership. So it can be about that to really measure business performance. So improving market share or anything. Generally, when we talk about business performance, what do we want to achieve? Bringing the three together, that is learning, employee performance, and business performance. Then we should look at the relationship. Let's just take a look at this. Learning, that is where we started from. Learning leads to employee performance. Employee performance leads to business performance. Learning leads to employee performance. Employee performance, individual employee performance, when we combine the effort of the team, from the team to the different departments into the overall organization, that is what leads to the performance of the business. And we as HR professionals, we as learning practitioners in particular, our role is to align both structured and unstructured learning opportunities. Please, let's pay attention to that. There are structured learning, there are unstructured learning. We'll soon be talking about that anyway. Now, all of those opportunities, how do we align them for the realization of the business performance? Realization of the business performance, but then realizing the business performance, that has to come through the development of individual employee competence. So whatever the role is, I'm an HR business partner, I'm HR manager, I am a recruitment, talent acquisition specialist, I am a learning and development specialist, which is the key now. We must make sure that we align whatever form of learning we have in our organization to the realization of the business performance. We've talked about so many metrics, we've mentioned many of the metrics. You must make sure that whatever learning we are dealing with is aligned to the realization of those objectives, is aligned to the realization of those metrics. And how do we do that? Through the development of individual employee competence. So I look at employee A and say, okay, based on your skill analysis, based on what you are contributing, how do you lead? How does your efforts lead to the realization of the business goal? How does your efforts lead to the realization of the business objective? Now, that is the reason why we need a learning and development specialist. That's the reason why we have to be committed to learning as HR practitioners. If we don't need that, then there's no need for us to have anybody dedicated to learning. But the reason why we have someone dedicated to learning is to make sure that whatever learning opportunity is available, maybe created by the organization, maybe circumstantial, whatever learning opportunity that is available is towards the realization of the business performance. And that has to do with individual employee competence. Moving forward, now let's look at some this is just a word for every one of us. Employee productivity is synonymous with employee performance. It is a meaningful contribution by the employees to attain the organizational goals through their work. That is employee performance. We've mentioned that the contribution of the employee to attain the organizational goal through their work. Learning is an effective tool to build the competencies of the employees and help them perform more productively for the organization. Learning does not necessarily mean the employee are not doing well. They might be doing well, quite right, but we need to improve that performance. Maybe we just want them to achieve more, want them to perform more. We don't say, oh, this employee is doing very well, it does not need it. No, that is not correct. It is all about helping them do more, helping them achieve more for the organization. So it is an effective tool, learning, it's an effective tool to build the competencies, building the competencies of the employees and to help them perform more productively for the organization. A learning professional must therefore excel and identify, please take note of that, identify the current and future skills, requirements of an organization. So as a learning professional, we must be able to identify not just the skills for today, but even the future skills of the organization. What are the skills that will be needed for the organization? What are the things that will make us succeed as an organization? Thanks to my previous organization, the last place I worked, now the management was key about, okay, let us have a 5 years plan. That was the mandate given to me, 5 years plan, even about this. For this 5 years plan, then we are not just looking at the skills that is required for us today. Now, based on the strategic direction we have, we are looking at the skills that are even required for us to achieve more in the future. So as learning professionals, we must be able to identify those skills and create flexible learning interventions. Flexible learning interventions. Please pay attention to the word flexible too, because many times we complain that, oh, there's no opportunities are not given for learning, to learning in this organization. It can be that the interventions we are introducing are not flexible. Maybe they are interfering with the daily running of the business. As much as organization must create time, we must also be considerate that even funding the learning interventions anyway depend on how well we're able to do with the business. And that is why we can always employ digital means and to meet the diverse needs of the workforce. So I will talk about that. Let's look at sources of learning. What are the sources of learning? I just captured that in this. The common thing is about this 70-20-10 model. 70-20-10 model. We just as quoted by Michael Lombardo, development generally begins with the realization of current or future need and motivation to do something about the motivation to do something about it. The odds are that development will be about 70% from the on-the-job experience, 70% experiential learning, 70% experiential learning. That means 70% of what we learn, 70% of what each employee will learn, we actually come from on the job, working on task, performing their daily activities, and that they most of the learnings that they will get is from that. Many of us are today the seniors in the house, 20 years experience and all of that. They will testify to it that it is actually the longer they do it, the better they become. The longer you do the task, the better you become. Fine, we have other means of learning, we have other sources of learning. However, most of the learnings that we have, most of what made each and every one of us to be the professionals we are today is from the experience we gain on the job. And that is why, just on a lighter note, we have so many associates of this professional, associates of that fresh graduates, and you put them up the certification. But the experience is needed for us to organization. So working on tasks is where most of the things will come from, on the job, situational learning in various contexts, experiences, challenges, practices. Now, when a challenge comes and we have to go on about it, that's a new experience, new learning have been got. Or there's a new technology that is introduced and we just have to start utilizing it. The more people use it, the as I was saying, a technology is introduced, and with that technology, everyone just started using it. The truth of the matter is that most of the things people will know about the technology will be based on their interaction with it. Let's say, okay, I think so. A while ago, in my former organization, we introduced cloud computing that is using this Microsoft 365, and we came on board. Oh, we have some training here and there, just talking about few things, but the real learning actually come when people started using it. And so, whereas we organized different training programs, sat people down in the training room, provided support, one thing that we did then was following up. What are the challenges you have? Line discussion. The more people, someone said, I have discovered new things, share it with the group. Let everyone learn from it. So what am I saying? Experiential learning is key. 70% of most of the learning comes from experience. Then 20% is from feedback. That is social learning, maybe coaching, mentoring, feedback, body system, sharing, collaboration. The more people interact with their peers, the more they interact with colleagues, the more they interact with seniors, the more learning they get. Interaction forms 20% of our learning, and that is why that must be encouraged in every. Should be in an organization. There must be interaction. If you don't want to lose out of that 20%. Thank God for the session we had yesterday about mentoring. Yes, those are methods of social learning. And so organizations must be committed to that, making sure that everyone comes together to discuss, because out of that we get 20% of what we are learning. Also, the remaining 10% is actually from our former setup. I'm sure for many of us, anytime we come across this, we always say, well, every time I have to want to study, look at 70, 20, 10. Continue from where we were. In as much as 70% is from on the job experience, we must also introduce formal, must be introduced, there must be courses, there must be e-learning that will help people even to gain new knowledge. As a matter of updates, industry updates have gotten through formal and social learning because people are just doing their job. They are really not, they really don't know what is happening with the industry. They really don't have the time to check out what updates do we have with this tool or application. They get those learning through social interaction, maybe talking to a colleague who has been exposed to in a formal setting for them to discuss, to learn about what is new, maybe about the industry, or maybe about the particular tool we mentioned. And that is about sources of learning, 70 from experiential, 20 from social, then 10 from formal. So let's look at how does aligning performance. To just look at two studies. The first one is a paper in 2014, a part of training and development on employees' performance and productivity. The case study was of United Bank Limited. The team investigated whether training and development has impact of employee performance and productivity. So they shared 80 questionnaires. So 80 people were sampled, 80 questionnaires was distributed across 8 branches of the bank. So we can just pick 10 from each branch, and the result was amazing. Now, sorry for technicality here. Now there's a positive correlation, which is 0.69 out of 1, or 69% found that training and development has a relationship with job performance. From the sampling, they discovered that at least 69% believe that training and development has an effect on the job performance. And there's an aspect 0.47 in the psychology field is a clear indication that training and development generally impacted the job performance of the employees. Study number 2 was conducted in Bauchi State of Nigeria. That is, and they also measured the impact of training and development on employee performance in Abubakar Tatari and the Polytechnic, Bauchi. Now, during the course of that, 201 staff members were 201, and that was across every level from academic, academic and senior non-academic staff. So it's not just a bias about certain set of people. 201 were sampled, and the data was amazing. Look at this: 4.2 out of 5 believe that their training and development led to efficient job function, that they were able to function better on their job due to training and development. That is 4 points. Then 4.0 and believe that training and development increase their productivity. That is 4 out of 5. Training and development increase their productivity. Then the funders that are 3.8 out of 5 improve motivation. And so we can see making them to be more efficient in their job function, increasing their productivity, improving motivation. Then looking at the other side, when the training and development program is not appropriate, it leads to underperformance. Can we see that? That is 3.74 out of 5. Fine. Training and development is improving motivation, is improving productivity, is making them perform more efficiently. But then when it is not it can lead to underperformance when it is not appropriate. Now, so the result of that is just an indication to everyone of us to know that learning is very essential to performance. These are data-based studies. These are not just, and this was the discovery. Training and development improve commitment of employee also. And generally, the average is that we have 3.9. That is almost 4 out of 5 believing that training and development, learning and development led to improvement in employee performance. That is how it is. Let's look at how does it contribute to performance now. How does learning contribute to performance? Let's look at the employee first. How does learning contribute to an employee performance? Number one is it helps employee to settle in a new job, having a new job, joining a new organization called training. Right? Time so let us have induction for every employee. It's just to make sure that that new employee, the person joining the organization anew, gets to understand the visions of the company, gets to understand the SOPs, gets to understand what are the objectives, gets to understand some basic principles that will help him where to even get help whenever it's in need. Also, I recall I was having a conversation with a colleague a while ago, and he said, like, do you know that while in school, nobody taught us how to send email? And that is the truth. Maybe in your school, I don't know, but all through my school days, from primary to higher institution, nobody said, okay, this is how to construct an email. This is how to send an email or use Windows. Most of those things we got to learn them on the job. And so if you say, okay, this person is joining the organization applications, he knows how to use all the tools, there must be proper training, because only then will the employee be able to settle. Only then will the employee be able to settle. My former workplace, one of the things we do is that if an employee exits within 3 months, we trace it to orientation with the induction. We try to look at how was the onboarding done. We always give that 3 months timeline so that in case any employee is exiting, any employee is having issue, okay, was it properly onboarded? The induction training, what does it contribute even to how the employee was able to settle? Now, it is not just about an employee joining a new organization. So it can be, okay, assuming maybe an employee has just been promoted. Now, getting into that new office requires that we help the employee to be familiar with the new responsibilities. It's not enough that say, oh, congratulations, you have been promoted, you are now to occupy the manager. We must also provide adequate training to help them enhance their performance. A while back, I have to develop an in-house management development program for existing business managers. And the reason is most of the business managers came from technical background, this is mechanical engineer, or these are architects and all of that. Now, And we just say, oh, because they spend this number of years working, because they've led this team to do technical things, we assume that they will know the numbers, they will understand the metrics, they will understand how marketing should be done, they will understand. Fine, they may be good at with products development, but there are commercial aspects of the business that they need to understand. And then how do they understand that? How will they be able to get such knowledge unless we introduce training, learning program for them as soon as they are taking up new responsibility. So for an employee to perform better in new responsibility, there must be appropriate training intervention. Training also instills confidence and reduces dependence. Dependence sometimes could be a waste. Fine, it could be good in some other instance, but sometimes it could be a waste to depend, oh, this person is not around, this and all of that. You always have to ask questions all the time. The time spent in asking the question, if you learn first before even assuming it, then there's a confidence, he's able to approach whatever task is assigned with all confidence, and then it won't have to be waiting on one person. It won't have to be waiting on one colleague or the other before getting the job done. And so we're able to save time, we're able to save some resources in that. So it instills confidence and reduces dependence. To improve employee performance also, learning helps to develop and adapt soft skills. Soft skills, we all know that the soft skills, in as much as everybody have the attitude, everybody have the way they were built, or everybody have the way they respond to issue. But as important, I don't want to say little, emotional intelligence, for instance, should lead the team without having an awareness of his or her own emotion, without understanding his or her own triggers, without knowing, okay, so nobody should assume leadership position without having understanding of that. How would they understand that? We talk about emotional intelligence, but some people, so many people, it's still very strange. And so learning program can help us to say that it helps to develop soft skills. It also clarifies expectations through learning. The kind of learning introduced, the kind of training introduced to an employee is an indication of what is expected. It's an implication of what is expected of the employee. So it clarifies expectations. It enhances employee engagements too. Well, if you notice in the studies we talked about, people are more motivated when they are engaged in a learning in a learning program. When they have developmental opportunities, they are more engaged with the job. They enjoy this. I'm learning new thing. You know, monotony takes people off balance. That is the truth. And the only way we can get that off, in as much as, most of the jobs have to do with doing certain routines, doing certain things. Now, a way we can help them to get off that is to make sure that new knowledge is being shared, giving them new perspective of how they are doing it. So employees are more engaged. And we know that when employees are more engaged, it impacts on the business. How does all of this impact on the business? One is uniformity of work progress. If I just bring everybody on board, this one is coming from company A, this one is coming from company B, and this other from company C, all of them join the organization E. They have different exposure, they have different experience, their approach to things might be different, the tools they work with might be different. And so everybody will approach it in their own way. But how do we ensure that every one of them are working together? How do we ensure that whatever they want to do is uniform? Or maybe, okay, we've asked someone existing the organization and we're bringing another person in. How do we ensure that the process that we used to follow is followed? The process that was set is being followed. It is training. Training is key to that. So if you want to have uniformity of work process, you want to be assured that people are there to SOP, standard operating procedures. Then we must include training in whatever we want to do. We must make sure people are learning. It also reduces wastage of resources and time. I've mentioned that when we are talking about instilling confidence and reducing dependence. It reduces wastage of resources and time. That is one way that learning helps businesses. It's improved customer evaluation too. Customer evaluation, when employee improved in their response to customer, when there's an improvement in how they approach, how they deal with customers, then what happens? The customer is satisfied, the customer enjoy more of the service, the customer values the business well. Oh, this person, this was the way he used to do this. Now he has really improved so well. Then the customer also develop a kind of positive perspective of the organization and say, okay, this organization is daily improving. It reduces employee turnover when we have employees that are well engaged and they are doing well. There have been surveys where employees says, okay, they are more likely to stay with an organization who is committed to their personal development. So it reduces employee turnover. And by reducing employee turnover, we know that the cost of hiring is cut down as much as possible. Cost of hiring is cut down. Then apart from the cost of hiring, too, the time it also takes for a new employee even to get to know the business, it's also saved. And with that, the turnover is reduced and the process, the daily business of the organization continues. Compliance with regulatory requirements too. We know that for so many regulatory requirements, if we don't comply with them, then penalties is essential. Like I was discussing with a finance analyst, and we were actually talking about making decision about which company, which stock to buy. And he mentioned something that when you check the book of the organization, look at the penalties too. Look at the penalties because it can be an indication of whether the business is doing well or not. Now, how do we save the organization? How do we save the business from committing so much error that they will always have to pay penalties, that they will always have to maybe even lose license in some instance? Training helps all employees to do better and the business in compliance with regulatory requirements. Then adaptability to industry and technology of these two things are changing every day. I always mention whenever I'm having an induction session that the reality, what we have today is that you might sleep tonight with your phone version 4.1 and you are waking up tomorrow with phone version 7.649, whatever updates. Things are changing. And so if we don't keep learning as employee, if the business does not allow each individual, each member of staff to improve knowledge, then they are likely to be phased out of the business. So as we are closing, as I try to summarize now, I want us to look at some responsibilities. What are the things expected of us as people professionals, everyone in HR? Because for smaller organizations, they might not have learning and development specialists. It can just be the responsibility of the solo HR, like we've had in one of our videos, one of our sessions through HR mentorship too. So as people professionals, generally, what must we do to make sure that learning is present in our organization and that learning helps the organization achieve its set objectives through the improvement of employee performance, employee competence? What are the things we must do? Number one is to develop a business partnership mindset. That is key. Business partnership mindset does not mean that every one of us has to be HRBP. No. Even in your own little space as recruitment analysts, develop a business partnership mindset. Understand that I am in this organization for business. Be interested in the numbers. Be interested in how well the department is doing. Don't just be interested in, oh, my job role, the reason why I was employed is just to make sure that there are trainings. No, don't just look at it from that perspective. Rather, how do I contribute to the bottom line of the business? How do I add to the bottom line of the business? Remember what we said earlier. Now, the performance and employee, the measure of that performance is actually the measure of the value of the employee. The better you are with your job, the better you are performing in the organization. That is the measure of your value to the organization. And so if your performance is not doing, if it has nothing to contribute to the organization, you don't seem to be valuable to them. And so we must have this business partnership matches. Everything you want to do, consider the numbers. Everything you want to do, consider what metric is affected. Don't just embark on a training and say, okay, we are just having training. It is, many times maybe for people who are lucky and you get to an organization where there have been seniors who have worked over the years, they already have things structured out. That's okay. Quarterly, everyone must attend 2 or 3 training sessions, and this is when it must take place. You have to get the training need from the appraiser and all of that. Things are already set, and you just rush in. You just follow operational things alone, organizing training, announcing calendar, and doing that without paying attention to how what you do daily affect the business. Then you are as good as not adding any value. So we must develop a business partnership mindset, even as professionals. Then secondly, what is another key responsibility? Verify needs. Verify needs. Verify needs. It is crucial that we verify needs in anything. People will come with all form of training requests. I have had that. Like I've had an engineer, it's an automobile engineer. Came to me, oh, I need training manager. I'm asked to meet you for my training needs. Okay, so what are you looking at? Where do you think there are deficiencies and other things? He said, oh, I want to look at data analysts using Python and all of that. So the question I ask is, how does using Python as to building an automobile? Of course, there is no direct correlation. And such training requests, they are stylishly, you just put it aside and try to get to see what will benefit such an employee. That was what I did then. Okay, what will benefit you more? Let us look at your present, your competence. Let us look at where you are supposed to be. Then we measure those gaps and say, okay, this is the kind of training, these are the learning interventions that we should rather employ, not just data analysis with Python, because everyone is going to take, everybody just wants to take up one skill or the other. You must make sure that there is a need for any training you're organizing, there's a need for any learning intervention you are introducing in the organizations. We know that through TNA, appraisers, and all of that verifies. And it doesn't matter who is making the request, even if your superior is making the request, please verify the need. Make sure that there's a need, because if there is no need and you finish contributing, one day you'll be called upon to go and say, okay, you spend this on this training. Now, how does it contribute to the business? So make sure that you always verify the need. Then another thing I want us to take note as professional is to weave learning into daily business. Remember, when we're talking about sources of learning, we're talking about the 70-20-10, that is 70% of learning coming from experience, coming from on-the-job experience, coming from what people are doing daily. Then if 70% comes from that, then how do we ensure that people are actually learning? How do we ensure that even while we are not sitting them down in the training room, while we are not saying, okay, using the LMS, these are the training that you must take you must complete within this month. Even without doing that, how do we ensure that in everything they do, when they resume in the morning and they have to perform 10 tasks before the close of the day, how do we ensure that they are learning even from that experience? It's a concern for every one of us. It is what we must do as HR practitioners. It is what we must do. For example, if you have a monthly appraiser form, introduce a column where you're asking, what are your learning within this period of time? It will surprise you. Maybe the first time you introduce it, people are not able to really say this is what I have learned. But the moment they know that, okay, I will be asked, what are the things that I have learned even during this period, then people begin to share their experience. And you can actually gather the experience, are able to build another knowledge base for people who will be coming on board. So we must just encourage the employee must encourage the staffers to acquire more knowledge to make sure that whatever they are doing, they are getting learning from it, with learning into daily business in the interaction too. While they're interacting, even as at the restaurants, make sure that they are sharing experience, make sure that there is a rubbing of mind, because those are bulk of the training comes from informal settings, as we saw with that model. What other things should we be responsible for? Track and report performance. Track and report performance. Remember that the title of this session is the importance of learning in employee and business performance. Now, if we are not tracking a performance, how do we know if the learning is important? If you are not tracking a performance, how do we know that the learning is producing value? If you are not tracking the performance, how will even the person introducing the learning be valued? So we must track performance of each employee. This was how the employee used to be. This was what was added to the team. But now, this is what is being added. Track that performance, track the metrics. Don't just sit in the HR room and say the business manager, the sales manager are the one that should be concerned about the KPI, that should be concerned about the metrics. Look at the metrics too. Look at the metrics too. So our commercial departments, and they were achieving a million volume of sales in the month. That is what they've been doing for the past 6 months. Are we improving? How can we improve in that? Okay, maybe they want to improve to 1.5 million instead of 1 million volume of sales. Then you have to just track it, pay attention to it, sit with them, making sure you track performance and also report it too. The importance of reporting is people will not get to know what you are doing if you are not reporting it. And if you check most requirements, most organizations nowadays are introducing that as a requirement for anybody they want to engage as a learning and development specialist, as a training specialist. You must be able to report and analyze data. You must be able to analyze and report data. You must be able to use Power BI. You must be able to use Excel to share your, what you are doing. Then, lastly, reserve knowledge. Remember, we are talking about uniformity of process as one benefit of learning to business performance. But then it can only be uniform when knowledge are well researched. Through the HR mentorship, we've also had a session on our knowledge management system. You can watch it on YouTube. You know, I've referred to many of them because that is what I do. Now you can watch that and just learn about knowledge management system. You have to preserve the knowledge. Whether they are gaining the experience through accidents, which is experiential, you know, some people actually get to learn when they've committed an error. But then the error has been committed, that is not a crime. To make sure that such error is not repeated is where you come in as a learning practitioner, as a learning professional. So preserve that knowledge. Okay, this is the knowledge that was gained through this. How do we document it? Is it going to be stored in the cloud? How do we make sure that any other person taking up such task understand what is to be done, understand what is to be done. So you must preserve knowledge. You must make sure that everything we do are well stored. Now, those are the key responsibilities that I put to us as people professionals, developing the business partnership mindset, tracking and reporting performance, and tracking, verifying need is very important, and then preserving the knowledge. As I close and as I'll be expecting our questions, I just want us to look at these statistics. 87% of millennials says learning and development in the workplace is important. Look at that, 87% says learning and development in the workplace. I'm a millennial too, so we are saying that learning and development in the workplace is important. Then 59% says having opportunities to learn and grow is extremely important when deciding whether to apply for a job. People want to know what is the plan for their development, what is the plan for their growth within the organization, and that is a report. Another one is this: 93% of employees say they will stay longer at a company that invests in their development. Of course, if I know that, oh, if I stay for 2 more years, I would have gained this new skill, I would have added this, I would have attained this, why won't I stay longer? And that is to tell us how essential learning is to performance, to employee retention, as well. Then well-trained teams increase their productivity by 10%. That's a study by IBM to report the value of training. I think I have the value of training. Well-trained teams increase their productivity by 10%. These are key statistics that should remind us that learning is important to employee and business performance. So thank you for the time. And I just want to appreciate everyone to stay for staying this far. So I want Mr. Oluyemi to say something about before we go into. We want to welcome questions. We want to take contributions. We want to help every one of us to share. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Lael Olayinka, for that expose on this very interesting and relevant topic. If you have any question or contribution, we have a few minutes to take that, if any. But I think you may want to check the chat box. There was something by Tokpa. Is it a comment? Okay.
Okay.
In cases where you are not previewed to the performance of each department, or maybe if you are not previewed, if you don't have information or access to information, maybe you want to provide clarity. But Mr. Ogundele Kaode has either a question or a contribution. You can unmute yourself, sir. Mr. Ogundele, you can
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Let me appreciate the moderator as well as the lecturer, the speaker. From what you have said, I think there is a concern that I have, particularly for people in the public sector. How do we manage, how do we regulate, or let me say, how do we help in a situation where learning and development is only seen as critical and very, very important to people when there is monetary benefits attached to it? Once monetary benefits are not attached or connected with it, no matter what you try to do and how you try to convince, they wouldn't see it as important. What can you give us or share with us experiences in the private sector, how you people have been able to handle this, and how it can be useful to us in the public sector? We know we cannot move forward except people learn, except people develop their skills and capacity. But we have a problem in the public sector. And the problem is that people will only take learning and development serious if there are financial benefits attached to it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ogundele Kaode. First, yes, you mentioned the public sector, but don't be surprised that that is also applicable in the private sector as well. When you call upon an employee, oh, you have been nominated for a training, the first question that I have asked to answer several times is, okay, what about training allowance? What about this and that? So it's something that is happening generally. And from my view, of course, I will expect our senior colleagues to contribute more. From my view, one of the things we need to do is to make people understand the importance of learning. Let them. When I was having that questions all the time, people asking, okay, what is going to be the benefit of attending this training and that? I had to schedule a session for every members of the organization to attend, to even understand why it is essential for them to take up learning. Even if the organization is not doing something, you have to do something. For you to stay relevant in what you are doing, you have to learn. So a session on that is also important. Maybe that is where people should start their learning journey from. Before you go and say, okay, go and learn about data analytics, go and learn about this. Maybe that is where they should start from. That is one way to do it. We won't also shy away that many organizations just have to encourage our people with that too. We say, okay, these are benefits of learning. And when you also attach learning, the number of learnings are the experience gained through learning. When you also attach it to promotion, getting raises, and the likes, people see it. But essentially, for us to really get the mindset right, we should start our training program with making sure the employee even understood the importance of learning, and why it is important for them to be involved in learning opportunities provided. That is just my view about that. I don't know if anybody wants to shed more light on that question.
Okay, thank you so much for the question and for the feedback. Again, I think it's not exclusive to one sector of the nation. It's cut across all sectors. You can see that also, sadly so, as a society, anything that does not almost lead to instant gratification, we tend not to appreciate it. Also, as a society, we are now in an era more than ever before when people have ostentatious wealth and nobody bothers to find out the source of the wealth. As you can see with issues with people like Hush Puppy and some people in the past that they will say Forbes under 30, and then down the road, they will be caught for fraud and the likes. You know, sometimes people want a situation when they talk about training, they will say, oh, are we going to Dubai? Or are we going to Kenya? Or are we going to Canada? So they've turned training more to a leisure opportunity, to an opportunity to be off work. Meanwhile, if you have actually gone for some kind of trainings, it may be more intense than when you are at your workplace. Again, also, certain training outfits, which is not bad, try to, introduces like almost like a 3-course meal to the training, so that when you go for the training, irrespective of the quality or lack of quality of the information and education provided, you'll be wowed with the quality of the food. So when you are building, for instance, a training school, the cafeteria, for example, is an integral part. So if you spend 1 or 2 weeks, what happens to you is that you gain weight. Just today, I taught some candidates somewhere, SPA, HRI, and one of the participants was a civil servant from this state where I am. Of course, like other people, she paid by herself. So I'm just trying to say that across the divide, you have individuals who value training, and you also have individuals who don't value it, like our facilitator has said. So it's more about us as a people. Do we value reading like we used to value? There are more things to read now than ever before, even for free. But I can hazard a guess that we probably read less now than we used to read in days past. Most people now, if you see that they have a library or a bookshelf, it's more for the aesthetic value than the actual value of reading. Take this platform for example, the YouTube channel. You can search for Oluyemi Adeosun on YouTube. There are many people, even in the group, I'm not talking about third party or outsiders who are not aware, who are aware, yet they don't go to check the YouTube channels. They will ask you clear questions that will say, look at these 1, 2, 3 videos that if you watch the 2 or 3 or 4 videos, you will more than conquer whatever challenge is ahead of you. So some people, until they have a problem, then they will be willing and eager to embrace a training. But you don't have to engage a training just because you are the precipice of a big problem. Okay, sometimes knowledge does not come across as urgent, but those of us who have embraced continuous knowledge, we can be called upon. So for example, you can call me without notice to come and speak about almost any subject in HR today. I didn't get there instantaneously. It's through application to continuous learning. You can't call me now that I have an interview tomorrow. I won't fret, I won't blink, I won't even, in quotes, prepare, except if it's an organization I know nothing about, just to read about them. But to prepare about the technical aspects of the interview, no, now for what? After all the webinars we've done here, all the book reviews we've done, as a people. All the trainings are personally paid to attend. All the trainings are attended for free. All the trainings with both are available. So it's something we need to continue to work on. Okay. I hope I've not spoken too much. Thank you so much. I think I saw Mr. Tokwe's hands up earlier. Tokwe, do you have a question or a comment or contribution so that we can keep closing remark and wrap up? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Good evening, sir. Thank you, sir, for the training. Okay, I was trying to ask a question that if you find yourself in an organization whereby maybe, for instance, sales department, accounting department, you are not privy to this information. And even in their performance management appraisals, their training needs, what they will write, the line manager will write as a training need, for instance, will be, oh, maybe if you get a sales van for this person, the person will be able to sell better. Or a student saying, if the organization, a staff saying, if the organization can pay for my CIPM, that's what the training needs are. And that's for people that's what I see in maybe some performance management appraisal documents. But basically, you having those key informations, when you ask from the line managers, they don't really give you the integrity of what you want to ask unless I try to ask few questions. It's more of I take it as more of the toxic behavior, like, oh, this person is not helping me at all, and the workload is too much. I don't get good responses and to have an idea of what to do. Or if I meet the line manager, they are pushing it, they are there. So sometimes I get a little bit confused on how to tackle the training needs for the organization. I don't know if there's anything, maybe what I can do better.
Okay, first, let me assure you that you are not the only one in that space. You are not the only one. I've had to battle that several times. I've had to battle that. People don't open up, and there are different reasons why people do that. And you mentioned one of it, maybe it's just toxicity. People just feel this person is not contributing, why is training important, and the likes. But what I will say before I allow Mr. Yemi to speak is, one, don't get tired at relating with them. You mentioned something that unless you ask certain questions, you will always have to probe further to get the information you need. I mean, and I've been in a conversation, I was just with the line manager, and he was complaining bitterly about a technician who was making mistakes. So when he was making mistakes and when he was complaining about that and all that, after the dust settled, I said, maybe he's not even aware of this. We can actually have a session on how to do this. We can actually have a session on how to do this. Funny enough, even after saying that, the line managers just brush it aside, that as though that was not important. But eventually, down the line, they have to resort to training. So what I think is you just have to, number one, is keep asking questions. More relationship with the line managers is very key. More relationship with the line managers. And God help you that you will break through, you will report a tangible impact on the business. Then you will always be summoned to be part of almost every meeting. I enjoy that for a number of times. That even meetings that ordinarily does not concern me, I will just be called, report at the conference room now and just sit. And during the conversation, I'll begin to from their discussion, I discover, okay, these are ways I can come in. So attending such meetings, you can as well pick your training need. They might not see it as there is a need for training, but you are the one who is able to say, okay, I think I can help in this way. Just adjust my view about your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leal Olayinka, for such a great session with us tonight. Many thanks to everyone who joined us. Thank you for your perseverance, resilience, and your thirst for knowledge. As always, we'll upload this on the YouTube channel in case you like to watch it again or like to share it with a friend who needs to see this. Please, let's enjoy the rest of our evening and join us tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. for another exciting session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.